Troy has left us the 14th chapter of John, and I have to tell you, this has been a real blessing to me personally to spend time in this important chapter. It has blessed Sheila a couple of times as well. She's been through this whole process, and hopefully it will be a blessing to all of us today as we talk about both the idea of troubled hearts and the idea of another comforter. Let's read the 14th chapter. We'll break this into two readings so it's not quite so long. Do not let your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you. For I go to prepare a place for you. If I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And you know the way where I'm going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know the way you're going. How do we know the way? We do not know where you're going. How do we know the way? Jesus said to him, I am. There's another one of those I am statements. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. If you had known me, you would have known my Father also. From now on you know him and have seen him. Philip said to him, Lord, show us the Father, and it is enough for us. Jesus said to him, have I been with you so long with you, and yet you have not come to know me, Philip? He who has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you, I do not speak on my own initiative, but the Father abiding in me does his works. Believe me that I'm in the Father, and the Father is in me. Otherwise, believe because of the works themselves. Truly, truly I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he will do also, and greater works than these he will do. Because I go to the Father, whatever you ask in my name, that will I do, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask me anything in my name, I will do it. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. Jesus begins this text with an important command, and one that may be challenging, one that's definitely challenging to the disciples to whom he initially spoke it, certainly may be challenging to us as well. And I have to say, as I've gotten older, the older I get, the better the King James translation sounds to me. There's just something about that Elizabethan poetry. The whole book is virtually poetry. So we're going to quote from the King James on this command, let not your heart be troubled. Now, you may be here today with a completely untroubled heart, and if that's the case, well, blessings upon you. But you may also be here today with a troubled heart, and we'll talk a little more about that. Jesus, within this chapter, gives his troubled disciples the means by which they can deal with whatever it is that's troubling their hearts. Now, Jesus didn't say this because he thought, well, maybe someday one of my disciples might have a troubled heart, and so, this will be good preparation. He knew as he looked at his disciples and as he speaks these things to them, he knew that they were building their faith in God and in him because of what they saw him see, about what they saw him do, and what they saw him say. But at the same time, he knew that he was occasionally a puzzlement to them, that the things he said and the things he did didn't always match up with what they were expecting him to say and do. Think about this for just a moment. These disciples that have chosen to follow him and that by now have chosen to own him as Lord and Savior. Peter speaks for all of the disciples. No one argues with him when Jesus says, who do men say that I am? Well, they got all kinds of opinions. Who do you say that I am? You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. They have come to that faith by this point, and yet they have with them the teachings of centuries of interpreting the prophets, and those teachings have kind of caused them some tension. Let's just look at one here. We read this a couple of weeks ago for our communion thought from the 9th chapter of Isaiah. For a child will be born to us, a son will be given to us, the government will rest on his shoulders, his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. There will be no end to the increase of his government or of peace on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and uphold it with justice and righteousness. From then on and forevermore, the zeal of the Lord of hosts will accomplish this. These words are firmly implanted in the disciples' mind. And as they watch Jesus, and as they affirm in their own minds and their own hearts that Jesus is, in fact, who this prophecy is focused at. Now look what happens when we start seeing words like we see in this reading. Words like government, words like the throne of David, words like forevermore, and the teachings that accrue to these prophetic words, where we begin to assume, because we've heard it so many times, that it must be true, and we begin to assume things like, he's going to be the head of the government. Well, this has to be the earthly government of Israel. That's the only context in which that prophecy is ever given. It has to be the earthly government of Israel. As we're talking about the throne of David, we have to be talking about a physical throne. It would have to be in Jerusalem. Can't possibly be in Herod's palace. Herod's not a Jew. And it's got to be Jesus sitting on that throne and ruling from that throne. And oh, by the way, the use of the word forever means he can't ever die, which becomes a problem, right? Jesus has already made it clear to his disciples that his kingdom is not going to be what they expect. So he makes his triumphal entry into Jerusalem. He's even riding the animal that he's supposed to be riding to fulfill the prophecies, the colt of a donkey. He has gone in, he has received the hosannas of the people, and everyone, the people in general and his disciples in particular, are saying, this I recognize, this I know how this is going to turn out. He's going to go to Jerusalem, he's going to somehow throw the Roman forces out. He's going to somehow liberate us from all of the outside political forces that want to dominate us. And he's going to sit on the throne of David, and he's going to rule us forever and ever. And then he doesn't do it. And they're confused, and their hearts are troubled. Have I misunderstood? Have I put my faith in the wrong person? If I've put my faith in the right person, then why are things not going the way I expect them to go? That's a source of the troubling of the hearts of the disciples. Jesus has a fairly simple solution for this. It's a 3-part plan, so you know it's good because it's got 3 parts. Part number 1, do not let your hearts be troubled. See, it's in your control to be troubled or to not be troubled. You can't control the things that are around you, but you can control what's happening in your heart. Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. And you see where the focus goes. Suddenly we're not being concerned about a comprehensive understanding of God's plan, because we're all humans, which means our chances of comprehensively understanding much of anything, much less God's plan, that's pretty small. If you're waiting to fully understand every aspect of God's plan, probably going to be waiting for a long time. Jesus simplifies all of that. Do not let your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. And he gives them proofs. If you're wavering at all about your belief in God or your belief in me, just look at what's happening. Look at the works that are being done. Of course this has to be of God. Even the people in general, even Nicodemus, way back in chapter 3 of John, who has a vested interest in keeping the status quo in place religiously and in every other way. But he comes to Jesus and he says, nobody does the things that you do unless he is from God. That statement of faith there can get you through a lot of troubled times. But Jesus adds one more tool to their toolbox. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. I'm going away to make sure that you have a home, to make sure that you have a dwelling place, to make sure that you will always be with you. And then he makes the promise in the second half of our reading. I will ask the Father, and he will give you another helper, that he may be with you forever, the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it does not see him or know him. But you know him because he abides in you, he abides with you and will be in you. I will not leave you as orphans. If you've got a troubled heart, Jesus says, I will not leave you without resources, without relationships, without the things that you need. I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. After a little while, the world will no longer see me, but you will see me. Because I live, you will live also. In that day, you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. He who has my commandments and keeps them is the one who loves me. And he who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and will disclose myself to him. Now it gets interesting. We're going to get another disciple in here. Judas, and John is quick to point out, not Iscariot, not that Judas. This is another Judas about whom we know nothing except this one little text. Judas, not Iscariot, said to him, Lord, what then has happened that you're going to disclose yourself to us and not to the world? You see how this question of how the Messiah is going to come to power becomes really central here and really troubles the hearts of the disciples. If you're not going to reveal yourself to the world, then what was the triumphal entry into Jerusalem about? And by the way, how are the kingdoms of the earth going to know that you are the one they should model themselves after? All of the prophecies have this idea in mind that the kingdoms of the world are going to come to Jerusalem to see the Davidic kingdom with its new head, its new king, rule perfectly with justice and with righteousness. All of those things that we read in Isaiah, those are going to be the hallmarks of this kingdom. How can this kingdom be a light shining out to the rest of the world if he's not disclosing himself to the rest of the world? Judas asks a very salient question. Jesus answered him in the way that Jesus answers his disciples so frequently. He doesn't give them a direct answer to their question. Instead, he redirects their attention away from what's troubling them and toward what should comfort them. Jesus answered and said to him, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word. My Father will love him. We will come to him and make our abode with him. Just a little linguistics here. We'll make our abode with him. The word abode is the same word that Jesus used at the beginning of the chapter when he said, I go to prepare a place for you. I go to prepare. Some of your translations will have a room. Some of your translations, King James and 1901 American Standard, will have a mansion. Many of them will have dwelling place. That's that same word. Not only is Jesus going to prepare a place for you, he is also going to make his place, his home, his abode with you and in you. What a comforting thought. Anyone loves me, will keep my word. My Father will love him. We will come to him and make our abode with him. He who does not love me does not keep my words, and the word which you hear is not mine, but the Father's who sent me. Now watch for the comfort here. These things I have spoken to you while abiding with you, The Helper, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, he will teach you all things. If you don't understand what's going on, just wait. The Spirit of truth will teach you everything, and he will bring to remembrance all that I said to you. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give you. Do not let your hearts be troubled. There's that command again. Or let it be fearful. You heard that I said to you, I go away and I will come to you. If you loved me, you would have rejoiced because I go to the Father. For the Father is greater than I. Now I have told you before it happens, so that when it happens, you may believe. This is remarkable when we look back at how the disciples received this word of encouragement. They all immediately said, oh, now I understand. Now my heart's no longer troubled. Now I've got the clear idea. And so when the group comes to arrest Jesus, they're all saying, you go, just arrest him, because this is how God's will is going to be. No, that isn't what they did at all, is it? They continue to be mystified all the way through the trial, all the way through the crucifixion. They continue to be mystified after the resurrection. When do they finally get a picture of what's going on? He ascends to heaven. They're still confused. They're standing there. They're staring up at the sky. A couple guys stand with him saying, you're going to get crick in your neck if you keep doing that. Why are you staring at the sky? Did he give you some marching? Oh, that's right. He did give us some marching orders. We're supposed to go to Jerusalem. We can go to Jerusalem. We can do that. We're supposed to wait. Well, waiting is pretty easy. We can do that. It is not until the day of Pentecost when suddenly the light turns on and the disciples understand what's going on. What else happens on that day of Pentecost? There's something about a mighty rushing wind. And by the way, that wind is the same word as breath and the same word as spirit. You have a mighty rushing spirit on the morning of Pentecost. And great things start happening. And people who've been troubled in their hearts are not only no longer troubled in their hearts, but they're just laser focused on what their mission is and how they're going to accomplish that mission. They don't worry anymore about what they're going to say because they have a helper who gives them what to say. Those of us who end up with a microphone on are very thankful that we don't have to worry as much about the things we say. I still worry about things I'm saying. I've been known to say some dumb things with a microphone on. But we have this comfort. We do not need to let our hearts be troubled. In fact, the idea of not letting our hearts be troubled is our perfect response to the human condition. Things happen in our lives, and they don't always seem to be going according to God's plan, and we might be given cause to wonder, how is this going to work out? How can this possibly be what God has in mind for me? Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in Jesus, the Christ. Now, some of you may still be wrestling with that idea of God and Jesus. Yeah, there are some things there that make sense, right? You look at the creation, you look at the beauty, you look at all of the things that continue to work, and you say, this can't have happened by accident. But at the same time, you look at how life works, and you look at the things that people say and how silly it would be to believe in a God that you can't see. Nobody of any intelligence would do that. And you may be troubled today. Your heart may be troubled with that. It's really pretty simple. It's not a matter of understanding comprehensively everything that's going on. It's a matter of deciding that you have enough information to believe. And if you believe in God, you will believe in Jesus. And if you believe in Jesus, you will act on that belief. He has made it clear how to go about doing that. He wants you to give yourself to him. He wants you to have faith in him that works itself out in repenting of the things that you've done and in confessing him as the Lord of your life and in being buried with him in baptism and rising up as a new creature. What a wonderful, faith-filled way to live life. Not able to control life, but able to live life with the confidence that erases troubled hearts. If that's your situation this morning, we would encourage you to come forward and allow this group to support you in that. Likewise, many of you have already done that. And you're like the disciples. You've decided to believe. You know what you believe. And yet you see God's plan unfolding. And you kind of wonder, who's at the helm here? Who's making these things happen? I'm not sure what's going on. Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe in Jesus. He has provided everything you need. He has given you the Spirit of truth who has promised to tell you what you need to know. You won't ever be omniscient, but you will always know what you need to know. If today is a day when you have a troubled heart, whatever your needs are, would you bring that forward and allow this group of people to pray for and with you as we sing this song together.